Hey guys, I wanted to do a really quick update today. I'm not going to be making this one as long as some of the more recent ones. I got a little bit carried away in some of the last few where I let it go on for like almost 15 minutes, but I had a lot to say, so sometimes that's how it goes. But I decided to make an update today, not because I was necessarily planning on it, but because I started sitting out here and was having some realizations and thoughts that I felt were important to share. And one of the biggest things that I want to talk about is the idea that sometimes we can feel this pressure that we put on ourselves to figure everything out all at once. And in the past, I've definitely let myself become guilty of that, and I've put all this pressure on myself to figure out, like, what's my job gonna be? How am I gonna figure all of my finances out and all this stuff? And what that ends up doing is it doesn't make the process any easier, for one, but it also just puts you into a bad headspace. And you have to realize that even when you're taking small steps towards something, that is still making progress. That's something that I have been guilty of in my past with other things as well. This idea that if I am not making the big strides all the time and I'm not actively figuring the entire thing out, then I'm like, I haven't made any progress on this. But that's actually not true. That's the point I'm trying to get across, is that you do make progress even in those small strides, even in the smallest of strides. And when, for example, I'm looking for a new job right now, and I applied for 2 today. And it took a long time actually just to apply for those 2. And I haven't heard anything back, and I sort of started to go into my mind and was like, oh man, like, am I not working hard enough at this? And like, am I not doing what it takes? And it's just a really not helpful way of thinking, because I did the work to apply for those 2 jobs, and that is taking a step of action. And every step of action that you take, even if it's microscopic, makes a difference. It can be really easy to get caught up in that and think that we're not doing enough, but if you are in any capacity working towards what you want to do, then you have to learn to realize when you're putting in as much effort as you can, and that's okay. It doesn't always have to be this thing where you're like killing yourself with or killing yourself with making yourself feel guilty and not allowing yourself to just live and be sometimes. And that's something that I really struggled with for a while in my life, was just letting myself be sometimes and realizing that I don't have to have it all figured out at once. I just need to worry about this moment and taking care of myself and being the best person I can be. So that was something I was thinking about earlier, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, like the emotions have still been pretty intense. I was feeling much better for a few days, and sometimes things will just hit me where I start to just feel like a ton of bricks falls on my back again, and that definitely kind of happened yesterday. But I am also just, again, realizing that is part of the process, and it's not one of those things where, again, it's all going to be figured out at once and suddenly everything's just going to make sense. It's something I have to keep actively working on for a long time, much like beating this addiction, actually. And that's another thing. With the addiction, it's the same exact idea. It's not going to all disappear at once, and there's not going to be one magical solution that you're going to find that's just going to solve everything. And I definitely would not say that I've solved everything, but I would say that I have started to learn enough tools to where I've realized what works for me, and I've realized like what combination of things has allowed me to not surpass this, but to handle it accordingly. And I'll share a couple of those things with you guys today for those of you who are still struggling, or maybe this will be helpful to you. But just remember that as I say these things, the tools that worked for me may not necessarily be exactly the same as what works for you, because everyone is a little bit different. But I will say that I have a lot of friends who have dealt with this and similar tools have worked for them. So just hear me out on these things. So first of all, isolation is one of the worst things that you can do if you're really trying to beat this. You have to talk about it. You have to surround yourself with people that are positive for you and are putting you in a path to success. And I don't just mean with this, but even just in your career, like you want to be surrounding yourself with people that actually want to do what you're doing and share a lot of the same ideals. Some of those people might struggle with things of their own too, but just the fact that you're surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals is really going to help with that. So that's one component of it. And two, sometimes there are inevitably going to be times where you are by yourself, and that's when it is most important to implement good habits. So for me, the things that have been most helpful are journaling. And I don't just mean like doing it when you feel like it. Like you've got to be like regimented, doing it every day. And it doesn't have to take a long time. It probably takes me like 5 to 10 minutes every day. It's not very much time at all. So you do that, and when you write the journal, like don't try to make it for someone else. Like really just put your real thoughts and feelings onto the page, and don't stress about what that might make you feel, or what someone else reading might think, because you don't ever have to show it to anyone. All right, so that's really important. And also replacing the bad habits with good ones. That one seems obvious, but you would really be surprised at how easy that is to miss sometimes when you're in those moments. And like last night, for example, I had a really kind of bad mental health moment where I started feeling pretty bad suddenly, just emotionally. And I got on my journaling app and I journaled, and I ended up just watching a movie that like kind of took my mind off things. It was just like a very like chill movie that was from my childhood. And even just like small things like that, can make a big difference. And it doesn't always have to be a movie, but something that you genuinely enjoy doing that is not destructive in any way. Like it could be playing an instrument, it could be going for a walk, which is what I'm doing, or what I just did to get here. It could be calling a friend, it could be really anything that you like to do, going out in nature. Something that takes your mind away from that and puts it somewhere else. So the other thing is you have to work on your own mind, because that's the source of all of this. That took me a long time to figure that out. I kind of thought that like, oh, this is just a compulsive pattern that I've basically adopted, and I didn't really think about like all of the things that in my life sort of led me to that pattern and led me to want to escape these feelings. So you have to do some soul searching emotionally, and sometimes that can be a little bit painful and a little bit unpleasant. It's not always going to be a relaxing experience, figuring out, oh, this like trauma from my childhood was a big part of the reason why I escalated to this, or this is why I feel like I need to escape, because I haven't dealt with this stuff from my past. But you have to face those things, because if you wait to face them, it's only going to prolong your healing, and it's definitely going to prolong the addiction, because even if you manage to make it a while without slipping up, if you haven't dealt with those things, they're going to resurface at some point, and they may actually even resurface worse than they did before, which is what happened to me many times. So I don't necessarily think everyone needs to be in therapy. You know, I don't know your past or what you've personally dealt with. It might be a simpler fix for you, but for me, I had some things in my past that were pretty traumatic and really like impacted the way that I felt and the way that I perceived myself and perceived my environment. And I'm making changes every day to work on those issues, and I'm honestly doing a lot better than I was even a few weeks ago with all of that. I feel a lot better and more content within myself, even though things are obviously a little bit hard right now. So you've got to get to that point however you need to get there. And for me, that ended up being therapy and a lot of self-work, and it's still work that I'm actively doing. But for you, it might be a little simpler, like maybe journaling would help you bring some of those things to the forefront of your mind so you can work on it. But those are really kind of the main things that I would say have helped me the most. And then the last thing I'll say, and this is an important one, is you have to put friction between yourself and this negative or destructive habit. So for this, it might mean things like you got to put your phone in the other room when you're sleeping. You have to have a book set beside your bed, which is what I do, so that I can read when I start to feel anxious. I just pick up the book and I start reading, and I learn something rather than do the destructive habit. It might also mean putting blockers on your phone, getting apps, avoiding social media, things like that. It doesn't mean you have to do these things forever, but it does mean that you have to think about how those things are really impacting you, and is it really worth putting yourself through the mental struggle at first. You know, I've gotten to a point where I can now handle social media a little bit more, but I still try not to go on there too much even now, because it's really not good for your brain, especially the way that it is currently these days. It's not a healthy place that breeds good habits, in my opinion. But these are just the things that have helped me. Hopefully you guys get something out of this, and I know I said I wasn't going to make this video too long. I actually already made it longer than I planned on, but hopefully this helps. See you guys soon.